Hello, everyone. I'm Davy Jags, and this is Sparkle On. Sparkle is your happiness, passion, and self-worth, and is found through the power of creativity. Today, I'm so excited to have Laura Rizzotto, who is a singer-songwriter originally from Rio de Janeiro and is now based here in Los Angeles. She performs in 4 languages: Portuguese, English, Spanish, and Italian. And she's shared the stage with artists such as Demi Lovato and Kobe Calais, and has even been the Portuguese vocal coach for Jennifer Lopez. Thank you for joining the show today.
Someone I'm standing and I'm shouting out. It started as a spark.
Thank you so much for joining today, Laura. I am so excited to dive into all your new music, your entire history, but I really want to start with, what was that first moment you picked up a pen and paper and became a songwriter?
Oh, that's a good question. First, thanks for having me. I'm so excited we're finally getting to do this.
Yeah, I know.
Let me see. First time I picked up a pen and paper, I feel like I was like writing poetry since a young age. I've always like written stories or poetry before I actually, started putting them to songs. And I've been singing, honestly, ever since I can remember, and passionate about music since I was a child. But I feel like writing my own music, it started when, I think right before moving to the US. So I'm born and raised in Brazil, but I'm also Latvian on my father's side. And when I was 11 years old, I moved to Minnesota for a year with my family. And that's where I learned how to speak English and also started kind of writing my own music. So before that, I think I was writing a little bit in Portuguese. But once I moved to the US that year, I started sharing Brazilian music that I was really excited about with my friends in school. And one of the best parts about Brazilian music is the lyrics. Like the poetry of it all is super beautiful. So I would play them the songs, but I was like, well, you're not getting like half of the experience because you don't get the lyrics, because I missed home so much. I just wanted to share my culture with my friends. So I started writing English versions of Brazilian songs. And I feel like that was when I really started to become a songwriter, because I started to learn how to express myself lyrically. I learned more about phrasing by writing these versions. And then right after that, I started writing my own music. So that was like 11, 12 years old.
No, that's beautiful. I felt like that story resonated with me the most, but mostly because I was kind of curious. Sometimes people say that certain phrases or the impact of a phrase in another language doesn't carry the same weight as it translates to English. So how did you like mentally exercise like what words might have like you used to like inspire the English words to explain it to your friends at the time? And then how has that shaped you as a songwriter today?
What a great question. So I think that, that's why when I was writing, it was versions that I was writing in English, right? Instead of writing just like a translation in Portuguese. So for it to fit musically, you can't really do just a direct translation. Most of the time you have to find a new way to shape that phrase, or you just want the same feeling to be there and you find something completely different. But that's a really fun exercise, you know? I think that one of the things that I've noticed a lot, especially now, because I've been writing in both languages for a while. Nowadays, I do co-writes in Spanish. I've done Italian versions with Italian writers of my songs, and I've just, explored in multiple languages. But now I'm doing a lot of a bilingual sound, and I've noticed so much of how different it is when I write in Portuguese and when I write in English, but for the melodies. Because Portuguese is very rhythmical, right? Right. And so I feel like the songs that I make in Portuguese have like a different bounce to them. They make you want to move differently. The phrasing is different. And when I write in English, I feel like my melody is a little bit more connected, or even the kind of swing that they have to them is definitely very different than when I write in Portuguese. But I feel like these are just tools that gave me variety as a songwriter, as a singer. Also, when you sing in different languages, like different languages require kind of different resonance from your face, from your voice. Like when I speak in Portuguese, I think my voice is a little bit higher. It's a little bit more nasal. English, it's a little bit more glottal. We don't really have vocal fry in Portuguese. But I like that it just gave me a lot of different tools to play around with as a singer, as a writer, as a voiceover artist. It's all just really fun.
And I love how you said like in, Portuguese, like there's a little bit more like bounce and the rhythm is different. So how does that choreography for all your performances play a role? And how does that differ in the lyrics when you're interchanging between different languages?
Oh, that can be difficult at times. So I have a song called Papaya that I have a Spanglish version of it. So that's Spanish and English. And then I have a Portuguese version for it. And then I have an Italian version for it. And I often perform mixing all of them. But the order of the things that I say in different versions is different. The lyrics change a little bit. So there's different choreos for different languages.
That is a lot.
It's a lot. It's crazy. I was like, well, why did I do that? But honestly, it's like one of them says like Regina, that means queen in Italian. I do like this. But I was like, that doesn't happen in any of the other languages. But it works in Italian. But it's all a fun exercise, you know. It's like dressing up someone. It's still a beautiful model. Like the song is the beautiful model. And you're just dressing it up in different styles and playing around.
And so when you are writing these songs as well, how are you determining which lyrics are, you know, English, Portuguese, Italian? What about, I guess, what you're saying, how do you match that with each translation?
Like which language I'm choosing that I'm going to write in. So my two core languages are Portuguese and English. Those are the two that I feel the same in my brain. So I don't necessarily choose, or depending, I mean, if I'm writing for pitch, you get directions for that.
Of course. Yeah.
But especially for my next project, I feel like right now, it's the first time that I'm writing the same way that I speak, which is mixing all of the time. If I'm being 100% myself, I am mixing all of the time. So it just depends on what you want to say. I kind of let the song show itself to me and the language that feels the most correct show up, which has made, I think, my music a lot more exciting. Like I'm really excited about the things that I'm making now. My latest single, Viralata, I think showcases a little bit of that because most of it is in Portuguese. And then I have an English pre-chorus, but that just had to be in English. You know, I just wanted to have that. But yeah, I don't think I really choose. I do think that there is a vulnerability that is easier to have sometimes with English lyrics. Like I'm more used to talking about relationships in English.
Interesting.
At this point. Also, like Portuguese, the music in Brazil lyrics are very poetic. There's a lot of metaphors and double meanings and things. I think English can be a little bit more direct. So I think it's easier to sound cheesy in Portuguese unless you're writing very well.
Okay.
So it's something that I'm very aware of. I also grew up listening to, honestly, poets in Portuguese. So I feel like I need to live up to that a little bit more. And I'm a little bit more a little harsher on myself in that sense. So it's just sometimes easier to write about that stuff in English for me.
That's really interesting. And I think I've even heard other songwriters talk about how if they are bilingual, that sometimes they'll even dream in a certain language that helps them write their song. And so I'm curious of what is that, whether it's you remember your dreams or not, what does that stream of consciousness look like when you're physically putting that pen to paper? And maybe then where, let's say you are more comfortable, like you mentioned, talking about relationships in English, what does that revision process look like in the song?
The revision process. I think for the stream of consciousness, people have asked me about the dream thing. I have no idea because that's the thing. Both the languages are the same in my brain.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I've heard
that too. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I was like, well, I mean, yeah, I don't remember. And especially my parents are the ones that catch me the most because when I speak to them on the phone, I'll mix a lot.
Right.
And sometimes they'll get mad at me. They'll be like, I need you to just speak Portuguese. I'm tired. And I'm like, okay. All of the time. But it's good because sometimes, because I've been in the US for so long, when I have to speak only in Portuguese, I do take a little bit longer with my words or,
right.
I feel not rusty. I mean, I speak Portuguese every day, but it is different than when I've spent some time in Brazil. But the process of revision, do you mean just what my process is for revising songs?
Yeah. Whether it's lyrics or instrumentally.
I feel like a lot of people talk about being perfectionists. I don't think I'm a perfectionist. I think I'm a completionist.
I love that. That was one of the most powerful sentences I've ever heard from an artist in my life. Yes, because it's one, really important, but you said it with so much confidence. I admire you so much. That
I
was
appreciate that.
great.
Girl. Well, it's funny because like I think a part of me has like even revised myself because I just hear everybody talk about being a perfectionist and I'm like, no, I don't think that sounds like a lot of fun. I also don't believe in perfection, to be quite honest. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a lot of self-sabotage that happens with perfectionism. And I've seen myself get into those mindsets sometimes. And I've learned that like perfect, like done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Done is better than perfect, girl. Just finish the thing, you know? But with songs, I feel like when I'm writing music, I think there's a craft to it that I think is a skill that you work on. It's a muscle. But to me, there's also, especially when I'm writing music for my project, there's kind of like a spiritual aspect to it.
Of course, yeah.
I do think that I'm a vessel for like things that are just, around. Like I think that artists are vessels for storytelling and whatever métier that they have. And I feel like that with songwriting. I do feel like a lot of what I do is just like being an instrument to reveal a song to reveal itself. And then in that process, I understand something I'm feeling better and I can help other people find the words that they can't find because that's one of my crafts and it's one of my skills. So I'm not really picky when I'm writing, honestly, like I usually start a lot doing like filler lyrics for things.
Okay.
I'll just be like, I do have like a note on my phone with like phrases that I like. If I like a word, I'm like, okay, that word's kind of cool. Especially when I hear a new word in English, I'm like, I'm gonna try that out. Or now in Portuguese as well. And sometimes I'll go back to that. But in general, to me, the most important thing when I'm writing a song in the beginning is to find the shape of it. So I'm finding the melody, I'm finding maybe some keywords, maybe a little bit of the story with the feeling. And then I'll revise it after to be like, this isn't strong enough. If I get stuck in a line for too long, I'm just like, let's move on. We'll go back to that after. Because it's just about the flow of finding that bigger shape of the song. But it's not often that I feel like lyrics come, like the whole story comes first to me, but it depends on your emotional state. Like,
of course.
If I'm in a writing session, like I was doing a writing session a couple weeks ago with my friend JP, and we were talking about basically the circle of life and kind of the role of artists in society and how sometimes it feels like music makes people immortal because we're all frequency. Music is frequency, and that would be vibrating forever. We're talking about the Michael Jackson movie, which I haven't watched yet, but I've been studying him lately. So, and then that was I was like, there's a song there in the things that we're talking about. And it took some experimentation and then I found it. But I've gone to sessions, for example, especially when you're going through heartache or there's something that feels really urgent for you to say.
Yeah.
That it feels like the perfect lines that are really creative and, that the lyrics just reveal themselves to you really quickly.
Of course.
And then that's really welcome. But usually I just try to get the shape of the song, kind of like the main idea for it. And then I tweak carefully, especially when I'm in sessions. I don't want to spend too much time tweaking stuff in sessions. Often I'll be like writing with people, do it together. And then I'll be like, I'm going to work on this on my own a little bit when I get home because I want to go crazy and find the right words. But yeah.
But I think what you said about those like filler words or filler phrases is a really valuable tool because it speaks back to, your callback of the completionist part, right? Because I think, I know I've struggled where I'm like stuck on a sentence and I'm trying to make it perfect because there is something urgent in my chest maybe, but I don't know how to phrase it or I'm not emotionally ready to say it the way that it needs to be said. But like kind of just glossing over it until you're ready to come back to it, I think is a really valuable insight in the writing process because writing songs, writing anything is very hard. It's coming from a very vulnerable place. And I think what struck me is learning about how you opened for Demi Lovato on her Latin American tour when you were 16. Yeah. Super young. That's amazing. And you had just completed your album Made in Rio with Universal Music Brazil. And I wanted to know, like, at that age, were you able to understand how to hold on to your sense of purpose and your craft? Or was it kind of like a whirlwind that you were just going with? And then how did you kind of come back to that sense of self if you were kind of wrapped up in the tour of it all?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think. I feel like at that age, I was very much at all times acting out of instinct for everything that I did. I mean, I studied music from very young. Like I knew I wanted to do this since I was a child, and I've been taking it seriously like since I was a kid. I did classical ballet to have better stage presence, to know how to move my body, and just to be well versed, because ballet gives you good foundation for every style, I think. And just to have exposure on stage and learn how to choreograph. And I did tap dancing. I did classical piano for 8 years, classical ballet for 8 years. Then I did singing lessons. I learned guitar on YouTube. I did actually like classical singing for a while, classical guitar for a while, but I didn't like that. And I've been writing since I was 11, 12. So I feel like all of these, like my family saw that I took it really seriously, that I was passionate about it, that I was dedicating myself to the craft. So I didn't think about I don't think I knew what my purpose was. I just knew that I was meant to do that thing, and that people felt really good when I did that. And that's the thing. It didn't feel difficult for me. It felt very natural. I worked on it, of course, but it just I just knew that I was born to do what I do, you know? I reflected more on, and that's the thing, at that age, like I remember like when I got a record deal with Universal at the time, I remember that I was in high school and my mom knew that I wanted to do this. And I ended up doing a few shows in my hometown in Rio at this place called Bar do Tom. It was for around like 350, 400 people. We sold out 2 nights.
Wow.
Then 2 weeks later, I did another show. And then after that, I got signed to a label. Like there was a guy from Universal that went to one of my shows, a radio director, and they signed me on the spot. So it was crazy because I wanted to go to music college, for example. And my mom said, yeah, but you can only do that if you get a record deal before. Like we need to make something happen to see if if you have that potential, if people in the field take you seriously. And it happened, Yeah. So I remember just being like, it's not that I was like, well, I really want. I was like, well, I guess that's what happens. I did shows. I got a record deal. I got a co-publishing deal. It was just, and of course that I'm very privileged that I had a lot of support from my family in that, whether it is from an educational part, I went to a great school, but also that I was able to do private ballet lessons. I was in a conservatory, and I was also doing lessons in a school that I competed with, having voice lessons, and just the overall emotional support of my dream,
For sure. And it makes a huge difference.
Humongous. Yeah. And they were protecting me a lot too. But yeah, I don't think I realized everything that was happening, in the sense that I was like, I'm meant to do this. I guess people believe in me. I guess I'm getting the support I need. And whenever there was an opportunity that presented itself, like the Demi Lovato opportunity, I always deliver, because it's just what I was trained to do. And that experience was really cool. Because I remember I feel like I've been manifesting since I was a kid by accident, like not by accident, but not knowing.
Yeah.
And a lot of me nowadays has been also like reconnecting with that and being like, girl, you were connected with that source energy. Because I remember going to her shows. I saw Miley, I saw Selena at the time, Demi. And I remember just being like, I'm supposed to be doing that. And I saw their opening acts. And I'm like, I could do that. I should be doing that. And then the opportunity came up. And I remember it was the biggest audience I had performed for. Before that, I had performed for max, I think 400 or 500 people. And this one was 7,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was so excited. I was like,
I'd be freaking out.
I was so stoked. And then the Demi fans were so lovely to me, because that's the thing, things that I didn't realize at the time. I guess that it can be tricky to open up for an artist, for an audience that doesn't know you, and they're excited to see this artist they've been waiting for. And at the time, I didn't even think about that. I was like, yeah, I mean, if they like her stuff, they're going to like my stuff. It all makes sense. But it was so cool. Like, I remember there's like a video of someone's phone on the internet that I started playing my song. My single at the time was called Friend and Me, a song about friendship.
Aww.
Yeah, it was also bilingual. And I remember playing and then hearing that people were singing with me. And I was like, oh my God, you guys are singing. And I kept playing the song. Yeah, but that was like an awesome experience. I just feel like I was in a state of flow and doing what I was meant to be doing. And I got very lucky with the support that I had. But nowadays, I think ever since I graduated from college, because I went to Berkeley and Cal Arts, I think I started thinking about more of that. I was like, what is my purpose in the world? What is the purpose of my work? And that guides a lot more of what I do now.
Yeah, I understand what you mean about like being so young and just the discipline and the manifesting and not knowing that you're manifesting and kind of like drawing in that source of like, no, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do it without any fear is very important to being a kid. You know, we play pretend, you have imaginary friends, things like that.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like you grow up and whether it's imposter syndrome that starts to creep in or the reality of life or that you want to express your feelings with harder situations, it's almost like you need to be taught. And college is a really great way of learning those things, but there's so many ways to learn about that purpose and ultimately your craft and your artistry. But I think it is a great privilege to learn that you want to be an artist so young, because I don't think a lot of people even give themselves the permission to say, hey, I'm an artist or hey, I am creative. Because I personally believe everybody's creative. Yeah. They're just not taught how to be creative or they tell themselves they're not good enough to be creative. And like, it's not about being good enough. Like, yes, some people want to make an occupation out of being a singer or performer. But it is like kind of a human right to create, to sing around the kitchen and things like that. And I think people have really lost sight of that for many reasons, whether it's just like the perfectionism of like social media, whether it is because of like the culture that we have and the dichotomy of like celebrity to consumer, where it's like we look at celebrities as these all powerful people, but it's like really like if you wanted to get up on a stage at a local bar or something, you probably could weasel your way in there.
Yeah. Or just like live your life creatively, right?
For sure.
I think sometimes, let me know what you think about this too, but it's one of the things that I think people need the most is to really reconnect with their inner child.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's like my favorite topic.
Yeah, it's so important. Like honestly, and I think people that are in touch with their artistry do that more easily. But for example, I'm dancing all of the time. Like I know I'm a dancer, but I'm at the gym in between sets. I'm playing Michael Jackson. I'm moving my body. I'm like, guys, it's free. Like your day, it's so much better when you just like allow yourself to do that, you know? I think when we become adults, there's so much more expectation of the things we're meant to deliver that we judge ourselves a lot more, and that can be harder too. And I think adults start making goals and they stop dreaming.
Yeah.
And it's important to go back and check in with yourself. Like I've caught myself in a few moments in my life too, especially after COVID, that I was like, oh my God, the industry stopped for a year for like live performing. I have to catch up. And I felt like allowing myself to write was like a privilege. And I was like, well, you need to earn that because you need to take care of all of these things first.
Yep.
And it made me so unhappy, you know? And I think that only takes you so far, and you have to kind of like surrender to the process and trust that, hey, I'm actually meant to be doing this thing. This is a part of my purpose. And maybe you don't see the exact reward, but I remember being a kid and just knowing, I was like, I'm not going to hang out with my friends today, but I'm going to, because I have to write a song. And I know that whenever I write a song, something good happens. And something good always did happen, you know? But yeah, do you have that? Like, how do you connect with your inner child?
Yeah, I mean, I think, okay, so I feel like most creatives that I interview, and like the ones that I find that are most connected to their art, but also arguably most successful, however you determine success, but like happy in their artistry, is because they have an element of themselves that has never grown up. And I think I'm very similar in that. And there have been times, especially in the last couple years, when, like I said, life just gets a little bit harder, where I have caught myself trying to force myself to grow up. And like one of my very best friends since I was like 18 years old in college, I was talking one time on FaceTime and she was like, who are you? Like you don't sound like the Davy that I know who daydreams and doesn't, and that like, she's like, you've always taken life seriously, but right now you're taking it serious in a way that you never have before. And I don't think it's like who you are. And she wasn't like, you know, doing the friend thing where like, oh, you're growing and like they don't know how to handle that. No, she was like, hey, you need to come back down to like your planet Earth, because your planet Earth is always like more exciting to be around and more like better for your art. And I think that helped me a lot. Was one, having someone that has like seen the ups and downs, because like I've gotten all the shocked looks at me when I'm like daydreaming about something and sharing my vision, and like everyone thinks I'm crazy. I'm aware. Like people think I'm not aware of what they're thinking about me when I'm like on one of my like, you know, downloads, but I'm totally aware, and I usually don't care.
Good, yeah.
Right? But then there were some points, and I feel like the last 2 years where I started caring, because I think sometimes, especially probably, I'm sure you experience this a lot in LA culture, is like, if you're not having that exact like result, people are giving you like a certain look, and that gets taxing, right? Because you like, it's that balance of that, like I think of it as like 2 train tracks, where the child you is like, I know where I'm going and I know what I'm meant to do. It'll all work out, like no thought in sight about like how, right? And then there's the other like parallel track of like, no, it's making these stops. And like that could be like the stops are like a metaphor for those goals. I think people have defined goals as one thing and daydreaming as another. And I think there's a hybrid of the two.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I think that with especially artistry, goals have to be more of something like you mentioned before, like a resonance or an impact or a feeling that you get along like the progress that you're making of these, like what your creation or your project. Like I think sometimes you don't inherently like have control of like when you'll publish a book. You can aim to say, oh, I'm going to have it published in like 2030, or I'm going to have this type of song published in 2030. That's important. But like, what about, you could like sit there for 10 years and rush to put out that song or rush to put out that book. And what about like reframing it as like, no, I hope I put something out in 2030 that is around these themes and that I find the expression for this element of life. And I think that leaves it more open in a way that allows you to learn, because I think setting such like stringent goals is just keeping yourself in a box. And most artists fail when they're in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're talking a lot about the concept of like getting too attached to a result.
Yeah.
And we forget that the journey is what matters most. I know it sounds super cliche, but it's really true.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've done so many things that I was like, even with releasing music, sometimes I was like, I don't like this process. This is stressing me out. I'm like, you're going about it the wrong way. Like people choose to be artists because it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
So if it's not fun, it's like you're doing something really, really wrong. But I like what you said about the hybrid. I think that makes a lot of sense. For the people that look at me like I'm crazy if I'm talking about dreams and stuff like that, I'm going to be honest, I've become a lot more private about who I share these
That's
things
good
with.
advice too.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know. I mean, it depends on what state you're at. I feel I don't like to, but part of me wants to speak things into existence, but I only do it with the right people, you know, because depending on what mindset you're at, they might like get in your head, or even if not in a like mean way, people are just always trying to reaffirm the reality that they believe in. Right?
For sure.
Because it's really shaky when you're just like, oh my God, this reality is not correct, you know? And everyone chooses their reality. Everyone to a certain point chooses what's most convenient to them. But then sometimes, especially lately, that I feel like I've had this like bubble of energy that I'm in a really good place. I really believe in the things I'm making. I believe it's going to have a great impact. And then I've become a lot more protective about who I share that with. Because it's like having a diamond. And I'm like, well,
yeah, no.
If you're going to think it's just like some random ass crystal, then you shouldn't be looking at this diamond.
I like that.
You know,
how are you determining the kind of support, whether that's the characteristics of the people that you surround yourself with? Like, what is that filter for you?
I think it's different from different people. From sharing people that have faith in me, but that are also ambitious and just believe in and have the mentality of like, you can make whatever you want happen. instead of always worrying about the how. I feel like the most extraordinary, the best things that have happened in my life, I did not see coming whatsoever. Like I worked with Jennifer Lopez. I vocal coached her for a duet she did with a Brazilian artist. She was singing in Portuguese and I was teaching her how to sing in Portuguese. And you think I predicted that? You think I saw that coming? Yeah. I was literally like playing at a showcase at a Hartman store. That's like a music store in New York. Okay. And then they were doing like a sound series at the time. I think that we played and they gave us like equipment from there. And so it was cool. I was new to New York. I was like, I'll do it. This was many years ago. But I remember this like little kid came up to talk to me. And he said, oh, I rap, like I have stuff on SoundCloud. I loved your set. And I was like, yeah, Aww. Send me your stuff. So I gave him my number. Like almost a year later, this kid calls me on a Friday night. Okay. I'm at a bar with my friends from Colombia.
How old is this kid?
He maybe like 14.
Oh, like a kid.
A kid. Like with a backpack and glasses, like very. And I was like, yeah, But I'm at a bar with my friends because I was doing my master's at Columbia at the time. I did my master's in music in New York. And I have a whiskey in my hand. My phone is ringing on a Friday. I was like, should I even pick up? I didn't have his number saved. He had my number. And then I pick up and it's this kid. He's like, Lau, do you remember me from the show? And I was like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, okay, I'm going to pass the phone to my dad. And his dad was the producer that was working with J-Lo. He's like, yeah, we need someone like tomorrow to work with J-Lo for this project in Portuguese. Are you like available? And I was like, yes. Are you kidding? Can you imagine getting
Where did you have to go?
Well, they had a studio in New York.
Okay.
And I did a second duet too that she ended up not releasing, but they flew me to LA 6 months after to do it again. But like, you know what I mean? Like,
but it was a whole year later. Yeah. And you had no idea this kid was like a child of a producer.
No idea.
That kid was out there also working at 14 years old.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Like he is a scout.
He was a scout. Yeah. Or like, it's one of those things that it was just meant to be. He met the one Brazilian person that could help with what they needed. And right place at the right time, and everybody was nice to each other. So it was good. But it's like, when
that
people,
is hilarious.
Who's going to say that they planned for that? You can't. Yeah. So I do believe that there's also something about when you're, again, in a state of flow and you're doing the things that you're meant to be doing, that things just kind of start falling into place. So, and I think that there is a sense of faith that comes with that. And I'm not saying faith in a religious way. Of course, that I have my own sense of spirituality, but it's just trusting the process and knowing you're meant for something and just being like, it's going to fall into place. Because a lot of people, because they want to from the reality, start talking about, oh, but then how are you going to do this and do that? And you'll be like, I don't know. I just know it's going to work out one step at a time. With my album, that's been, I think, one of the things too, when it comes to like being, what you were saying about like not deciding exactly what you're going to write about. I know the core message of my album and I'm brainstorming a lot about other things. And I think that the songs are defining the story. But one of the first questions that the producer that I'm working with, asked me, is like, what is the album about? And I was like, it will reveal itself.
Yeah.
It's like, just give it time. I know the shape. I know the core things behind it, but I don't want to get in the way of what needs to be said. We're being intentional. There's definitely textures and sounds and a commitment to the bilingual thing, which has happened naturally, But I'm like, I think that I'm here to be a vessel and the message needs to reveal itself instead of us trying to make it fit into a thing. And it just won't be as powerful.
That was one of the biggest lessons I had to learn these last like 3 or so months. I was in this process of letting this story reveal itself. This fictional concept came to me, and I've never had a fictional concept come to me.
Really?
And it was sacral. Like it was infiltrating my dreams. I could feel it in my whole being. And then I signed up for a 10-week screenwriting class. And I don't really write a lot of screenwriting. I do a lot of prose and essay and things like that, nonfiction. And it was so rigid. It was like, get the log line like sharp. Get this scene at the catalyst point or that break into act 2 sharp. And I was like, I don't know act 2. Like, I don't know what happens. I don't know how the device that I'm trying to make in this like spy concept is supposed to work. It's supposed to reveal itself. That's how I've gotten as far as I did.
Yeah.
And it might not work in a 10-week process. And I was so mad at myself for not allowing it to be in that 10-week process because I'm impatient.
Yeah.
And but like, and back to that sense of urgency, like you said, how do you balance that in the sense that, at least because you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. You've been doing this since you were a kid. The revealing process works itself out. You have that trust in your body, right? But then if you are working in a certain time frame and balancing the industry pressures and all of that, what are you doing?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I think when it comes to first what you were saying of like being told how a process needs to be, I think depending on what I'm working on, it'll feel different. For example, Laura or Laura, say my name right. But when I'm working as an artist in writing for my own project, it's one process. If I'm in a room that I'm writing for a pitch, is a different one.
Yeah.
Especially like, for example, for K-pop bands. Oh my God, there's so many pitches for that right now. It's crazy. Like there's a very specific genre. There's specific words that we use. It's like a palette, and you're supposed to paint from that palette. And then I put a bit my process aside, and I'm just there for the craft instead of being this messenger. It's a different story. You know? So I think that having that detachment is kind of fun because I don't take it. Not that I don't take it seriously. I don't take it too seriously. That's the thing. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm just like, well, today we're writing for this, we're embodying this, and this is the vibe. And we just have to create something that I think is going to fulfill this assignment and that the artist who's singing will be happy about them. If they want this palette, then this is the palette we're playing with, and that's great. With my stuff is a very different story. So I think having that boundary, separating that in the process is good. But with sense of urgency, oh my God. I mean, I don't know how I handle it. It gives me a lot of anxiety. Because I can be impatient or I'm impulsive more than anything, Like I hate to plan stuff out in the long term. That stuff drives me crazy. And I don't think, and it's okay that it's not my forte either. It's not in my nature. That's not really what I'm meant to be doing. But I feel like I have the urgency to share things, but I share it with the people that I really care about. And I think that gets fulfilled a little bit because from creation of a song right now, where I'm at with the structure that I have, it does take a good amount of time from the song being from songwriting, producing, mixing, mastering, artwork, maybe visuals, marketing plan out in the world. Like all of that does take some time. And you just have to honestly do one step at a time and trust the process. And it's good to, I think I work well under pressure, whether I like that or not. I think a good deadline helps me a lot. But the pressures from the industry, I think it's a mental game you have to play your whole life that you can't let that sink in too much. And then you have moments that it does and it sucks, but like it'll pass, no one's sad forever.
Yeah.
That's what I try to think about. I'm like, oh, it'll be okay. But it's okay to feel that. It's okay because sometimes pressure from the industry, I'm just like, it gets me moving. It just can't get me stuck. Because sometimes it does get me stuck, and that's when it's a problem. Then I'm like, no, I've been learning a lot of how to reverse that being in constant movement is better than being stuck trying to be perfect. That's what
Yeah. It's really important advice is not trying to be stuck being perfect. Because I think the most detrimental thing to artists is not expressing themselves. Yeah. So if you're living in that stuckness.
It's self-destruction, honestly. I think artists need to create, otherwise they're like killing a part of themselves.
Yes. Yeah. But with that balance of the industry pressure, but then also being able to always express yourself, let's talk about Eurovision. When you were on that stage, the biggest music festival in the entire world, and you made it far, but you didn't make it to the finals. What was that crossroads like for you? Or were you just like so enamored with the experience of being part of something that large?
Yeah, honestly, like Eurovision was a dream. The whole experience was a dream. Like, again, one of the things that I did not plan for in my lifetime, but happened. And it was just really meant to happen. Like, even how I got to the contest, I was like doing research to travel to Latvia for the first time because I have heritage there, but I hadn't visited. And there's a song and dance festival that happens there that was happening the next year, or the year that Eurovision happened. And I was literally looking to travel And then I found out that they were doing accepting submissions for Supernova, that's the Latvian selection, for Latvians who also didn't live in Latvia. And I was like, well, what are the odds? You know, I have a song. I have one song ready that was under 3 minutes. And it was 3 minutes. Like, I remember that submitting the song that I went back and forth with the producer that worked on it with me, that we just kept trying to, because it was 3 minutes. So we're like, we need to shave off.
So it has to be under 3 minutes.
Has to be under 3 minutes. Like max.
What's the
3.
reason for that?
That's just like what the,
Okay.
it's like over 50 countries that perform. So they need to have everything timed like that. But I remember submitting a song. It was a ballad that I wrote by myself called Funny Girl. And I was like, what are the odds, you know? And I was very honest about my story. My family in Latvia, born and raised in Brazil, was living in New York at the time. And I was like, I don't know if they'll even embrace me in this process, you know? But I ended up winning the whole thing. So it was like, and it was the 1 year that Eurovision was going to happen in Portugal. So I was competing for Latvia, but I was a Portuguese speaker there too, you know? So it just felt like that was really just what was meant to happen. It was the year that my grandmother moved back to Latvia too. And it was so awesome. Like, it felt like such an honor to represent one of my countries, because I'm Brazilian and Latvian, to represent Latvia in a huge festival like that celebrates the unity of people from different cultures. And I felt so honored that Latvia embraced me and trusted me with that mission. And I feel like I was really focused up to the day that I had to deliver for this. I remember, like, I didn't drink that entire year until I remember my first drink was at the Eurovision final with my grandparents. Yeah, I was like, I'm fully locked in. And it's so much time that you spend for, like, just focusing on 3 minutes you're going to perform for millions of people, you know? It was 20,000 in the arena in person, but you're also performing for like over 100 million.
Right.
And I felt like, again, like, it's interesting to look back at that performance now, and with what I know and how I know how to prepare, because I make a full living from performing, and how I prepare myself now, I have different knowledge than I had back then for sure. So I think I would have, like, prepared it in a few things differently, but I did my absolute best. And I was really proud of how I represented Latvia, of my performance. There's a lot of things that come into play at Eurovision. There's politics involved, and also every delegation has different budgets for their performance. And I was really proud of what I did with my song, honestly, with the structure that I had. And the whole time, like, I'm not a very competitive person. I'm competitive with myself. I'm very harsh on myself. It's something I'm trying to work on.
Aren't we all?
But I think that's the thing. Music is so subjective. And I was like, to me, winning was making it to Eurovision. I was like, I won because I'm here. I got to be a part of this. You know, I was on that stage with everybody. I got to perform in an arena for 20,000 people. I got to travel all over Europe performing. We performed in Madrid. I performed in Tel Aviv. I performed in Amsterdam. We had also a performance in Riga. I missed one in London because I was doing Riga Jazz Festival. Eurovision opened also so many opportunities for me. And I got to travel a lot in Europe with Eurovision crew, but my mom was a part of a lot of these trips. So we have all of these memories, you know? Aww. And the way I got to really connect with my Latvian roots was so special that, like, when I look back, I have video diaries of that time, and I'm like, oh my God, you did that. That was crazy. That was a dream that I didn't, like, I thought of Eurovision, I was like, that's awesome. But it wasn't a dream that I had. I was just being like, one day I'm going to be on that stage. It was a dream I didn't even know I had. And I got to make it come true, you know? So it was a beautiful experience. Of course, that, like, there's a lot of people that ask me to come back to Eurovision because they want me to make it to the final. Because my performance was strong, you know?
It was great.
Thank you. I felt good about it. And I was like one number behind, you know? My jury performance, I think, was better than even my live performance. I remember that I think in the jury, I was like in 4th place or something. But who knows? Like, it opens up the opportunity of being like, will I ever come back to Eurovision? Would I do that again? And yeah, I only think of that experience as something that changed my life for the better as an artist, as a professional, as a person. And yeah, it taught me a lot about excelling under pressure. I didn't feel the pressure of winning. I felt the pressure to do my best, and I was completely locked in. So I was like, I did my best. I'm proud of what I did, and
But I feel like also like my brain thinks in like a spider web kind of. And like when I was watching your performance at Eurovision and like reading about the story and everything, I really felt like it arguably was a thread to your latest release, Viralata. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you said it nicely.
Great. I was just making sure.
You did good.
And I was just like, I loved, okay, you know how everyone talks about like the made for Hulu look?
Made
Like,
for Hulu?
Yeah, like because of like the color grading, how like color grading has just gotten like, in my opinion, a little downhill. It's not as vibrant or anything.
Yeah.
Your music video, first of all, I first saw it released on social media before I like went on YouTube. But like I was just so like I felt like a sense of relief and joy when I saw how vibrant your music video was. So let's start there because it really speaks to your mission of like bringing light into people's world, like through your voice, your dancing, your music. But also this song was so special because it was essentially speaking to your multicultural background. And I felt like it was like this essence of all of your experiences to this moment, which is really cool. But you talk about it being kind of this song about the Brazilian dream. What does that mean to you?
So thank you for that first of all. I'm really proud of that music video. I think that music video is Rio on steroids, man. That was my goal.
And I want to go so badly.
Girl, you should go for New Year's.
I have been wanting to go to Brazil since I was like 18 years old.
Really?
I need to go. Look, I'm wearing my Havaianas.
Yeah, look. They're sparkly too.
Yes.
That's the thing. They also have so many more options of Havaianas there.
I know.
Like it's so fun. You should go. I always say people should go for New Year's. That's a personal favorite of mine. Because everyone's like wearing white at the beach and the spirit, the fireworks show is beautiful. Just the spirit of New Year's is really, it's like a nice way to transition into a new phase. Rio, summer. That's what I recommend. Carnival is definitely one thing that you should do once in your life.
Okay.
And go to the Sambódromo to see the schools doing the parade, the show, I guess how you would call it in English. But yeah, so that music video, it's funny because we shot it exactly where I grew up in Rio. So it really is an ode to where I'm from and what to being a carioca is about. And Viralata means mutt. I always describe myself as a mutt because, you know, man, I'm from Brazil. I'm also from Latvia. I live in the US, but I've also done stuff in Italian. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, guys, I'm a mutt. I'm a salad. I used to say I'm a salad. Now I say I'm a mutt because I think with the song it makes more sense. But mutt syndrome is a thing that people, especially in Brazil and also a lot of Latin American countries, feel. That's kind of like an inferiority complex that they have with thinking that everything that the foreigners do is better. There's like this allure of what the gringos do. And gringos just means someone from a foreign country. That's all that it means. And then the more time I've spent abroad, the more I've realized how being Brazilian is a superpower.
Yeah.
How where you're from is your superpower. Your roots are your superpower. You know, how, yeah, I mean, I live in the US. There's a lot of great opportunity here. And there's a lot that people that come from America also excel at. But I was like, there's a flavor that comes from my land that nobody else has, you know? And we bring a lot to the table as well. There's a sense of joy. There's a lot of talent and musicality. So I think that being far away from the places that I'm from, it gave me a lot of insight into what is special about being from those places, you know? And that song, really, the message that it talks about is exactly that. It's just being like, hey, yeah, everybody talks about living abroad, but guess what? Nobody has the flavor that we have. And I think right now there's a big change in the Brazilian mentality too, that we're talking about the Brazilian dream because everybody talks about the American dream. And it's like a lot of people are also moving to Brazil. A lot of foreigners are moving to Brazil because maybe people's priorities are shifting. Maybe it's not just about how much you can produce, how much money you can make, your value being so deeply associated with your productivity.
Right.
You know, like maybe people just want to feel a sense of joy more regularly, or have a lifestyle that they're happy with and feels a little bit more balanced on a regular basis, you know? So it's been kind of cool to see Brazil becoming a dream for a lot of people when a lot of Brazilians dreamt of going outside. So that's what I what I mean with the Brazilian dream.
No, I get it. And I think a lot of people talk about these places of dreams in other places across many different cultures.
Yeah.
And I think specifically artists, whether it's through travel or believing that they should be somewhere else to feel that thing is very, very common. And I'm curious to know when you felt that need to kind of come back home into yourself. Because I think when we were talking about the inner child and healing that inner child, that coming home is like a really important thing. It's not always physical, right? It doesn't necessarily mean moving back to Brazil or for me, moving back to Pennsylvania, but what it means to come back to those roots.
Yeah, I've reflected a lot on what coming back home means. And I think I'm a part of a generation, especially of like immigrants in that sense that I don't know, home isn't a place for me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it really is the people. Like my family is super spread out. I spent my entire adult life in the US, but Rio is really deeply where I come from, where I was raised. And there's this whole different dimension of me that comes from Latvia that when I'm there, I recognize that is a part of me as well. And I feel like I feel at home at many places, depending on the people that I'm with. I feel like wherever I'm like last year when I spent months in Italy, I felt at home in Italy.
Yeah.
I was with my family and I feel like my family is home. It's more of a feeling than a place for me. But the coming back home to it, honestly, this was something that happened very naturally. Especially Viralata, it was the first song that I wrote, I think, into this new era that I was writing the way I speak. And it was right after I did a trip to Brazil that I spent like a month and a half. I spent like 6 weeks in Rio having the best time. And after a year that I worked a lot. And I remember just feeling so invigorated to be back in my land and to be at the beach and to feel Brazilian energy every day. Like, it's so crazy how the social interactions are different there.
Yeah.
Like there's the corner store there's a place called Palisucos that I grew up going to that all the gringos that go to Rio, they know about Palisucos. But they make like these juices and sandwiches. And like, even when I go there to order, like they recognize me at this point because I've been so many times, but they'll be like, "Bom dia, princesa. Como posso te ajudar?" They'll be like, "Good morning, princess. How can I help you?" They just feel like I'm like,
yeah,
you can help me, you know?
Yes.
But it's nice. And the thing is, like, it's normal. Like, people in general in places there, they just talk to you with so much care. And not because they want something from you. That's just like the tone of the interactions. So I remember leaving that and the way that I felt after, I was like, I need to connect with that a lot more often. You know, I was like, this lives in me. This is a part of who I am. And then after I wrote the song, it's like I reconnected to that too. And it's that thing that when you write something that feels fresher, like, I haven't heard that before. I haven't heard that message before. I haven't heard it be phrased this way. And I think it just awoke something in me, just being like, oh, me embracing being a mutt actually is really special. This is one of the things that I bring to the table that no one can bring this experience in this shape to the table like I can. And it just felt right. It just felt like it was time.
I really resonate with what you said about home and kind of building that. I think I'm at an influx of where I'm at the beginning of the puzzle. Like, I've spread the puzzle pieces on the table because my home, like back from where I'm from in like small town Pennsylvania, hasn't felt like home in a long time. But there's pieces of it. Like you said, like, I have my favorite place called Do-Si Do, and it's like my favorite like bagel shop, bakery kind of place. And you can go in there and it's, you know, nice to see you. What do you want? How are you doing? Are you still running? No. Okay. Like they just know you.
Yeah.
But I think what people forget, and especially like in the United States, there's this East Coast, West Coast thing and how it's different. And it's like, sometimes you just have to like recognize, like, you are who you are. If there's certain pieces of yourself that you like, that you get on the East Coast, like, what does it mean to bring that into a place like somewhere else? Whether it's Italy, whether it's Brazil. And I started making a list of all the things that essentially I loved about small towns, like where like maybe big cities don't have. So like sometimes I'll go on like morning walks and people don't say hello to each other here in LA like they do in small towns,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it's actually about safety. But then like, can you say hello to that person on the wall? Like, can you be the one to initiate it? And like, I think it's like creating a home sometimes is so much more effort, but like as an artist, it's almost vital that you create what it is really safety. It's a community, and that's where people play such a big role in it. But I think when you figure that out about yourself and you kind of create pockets of that, even maybe across the world, if you're lucky enough to do that, you're better connected to yourself as an artist. So I'm curious, now that you've put that music video out and you've like had that experience, what is your intuition saying about who you are as an artist and your work right now?
Ooh, big question. First of all, I think what you said is very interesting about the sense of home. I agree with the things that you're saying. Where am I right now as an artist? Right now, especially for the next project that I'm building, I feel deeply connected to my sense of purpose. I feel like I'm making an album. It's my third album. And it's like, I feel like this is the album that I was meant to write.
Yeah.
You know? Before it was like, these are my experiences. I'm putting them together. I think this is the concept. This is the name for the concept. I did an album called Made in Rio. Then I did an album called Reason to Stay. I did an EP called Ruby. And this album, I can't reveal the name yet because also I might change it. Who knows? But it just feels like it's an amalgamation of all of these musical experiences I've had that shaped me as an artist, and that now I'm ready to put it together in the way that I feel like no one has heard it before, the way that I'm doing it. I think, and it does feel like it has a bigger purpose of both representing my cultures in an international pop scene, and bringing that to the table in a way that I think is going to be elegant but interesting, but also I think I think a lot of my purpose. It's funny that you said it, but my purpose as a person, as an artist, is to bring light to people. And it took me a while to I feel like I knew that, but it's almost like you feel guilty, or I worry so much about the tendency for narcissism that artists have in our industry. Because
wow, I'm glad you said that.
No, for sure. Oh my God. It's so
that
present.
could be a whole episode.
Yeah, that's a narcissist in LA. But I do think, like on a psychological level, I mean, everybody that is an artist and likes the spotlight enjoys a certain level of attention, right?
Yeah.
And I think a part of me has always, I like attention for the things that I'm good at, when there's a purpose for it. I don't want gratuitous attention, you know?
Right.
Of course, everyone wants to be seen. Yeah. And I'm seen not just on a physical level, just who they are. People want to be seen, you know? But I think that I've always wanted it with a purpose. I'm like, if I'm on stage, I'm getting attention because I'm here to sing. I'm here to make people feel good. I'm here to tell a story. This makes sense. This is not gratuitous attention, you know? But I do feel like it took me a while to accept that. I'm like, well, this is what I'm good at. And I feel like I know how to make people feel good and feel understood, and to help them understand themselves in the process of also me understanding myself. And I feel like there's a bigger mission with this album, for sure, that it is a lot of the guiding force of the concept of the project. So I'm excited. I feel, and that's the thing, when you have purpose, there's a certain amount of peace that comes with it.
Yes.
And I think that when you're connected to that, everything starts falling into place. And that's a lot of what I've experienced this year. I've had some awesome opportunities this year that I was like, again, could not plan for it. Could not, even I did a conference in Rio this year. That was something that fell into my lap, and it beautifully aligned, and it changed my life in so many ways. And I could not have planned for that the way that it happened, you know? But I think I reconnected with something inside of me, and the universe was like, let me help you out, you know? So I'm excited about the next phase of my life artistically.
No, and I think the way you speak about it though is not narcissism at all. You know, it's perceived as such, because what I have found, and it's unfortunate, but how you mentioned earlier in this conversation, is artists are vessels to arguably a higher source, whether it's about themselves or a vessel for a collective feeling of the masses and channeling that.
Yeah.
But people get deeply uncomfortable with people that try and successfully do that. And so we label it as narcissism because someone has the courage to go after it and to express themselves in a childlike way. Childlike meaning a very powerful way, because children's voices are powerful.
Yeah.
But I think it gets conflated with actual narcissism because of maybe the monetary and capitalistic pursuits that exist in the industry that exploit artists. And when those artists also become like disconnected from themselves and from that source. And I think especially as women, like it's so easy to kind of, Melissa Phoebus, a writer, if you don't know her, you should definitely check her out. Her essay talks about this as navel gazing. And really it's like women question themselves as if they are being narcissistic because they haven't been able to step into that comfortability and that courage of like, no, I am going to express myself fully no matter what you think of me. And it's just, essentially the patriarchy, making them question those things.
Yeah.
But I love how you put it, because it is a battle that I think, I know I struggle with all the time, but it's this lack of understanding. And I think it's also people being uncomfortable with other people's discipline. It's very clear to me, like from this conversation, you are an incredibly disciplined artist, and that's intimidating. But to me, it's also beautiful because like, I know like we vibe off of just like inspiring each other from our own process. And like, that's kind of what this whole show is about. But some people who are maybe in that era of stuckness might label it in any which way they want. Right.
That's interesting. Yeah. I appreciate what you said, by the way. I think I go through phases of discipline and phases of chaos. And I've just accepted, I think balance is not just being here. Balance is this.
The pendulum.
Yeah. The pendulum. Yeah. So I appreciate it, but I want to be real that like, it really depends on the moment.
Oh, same. Oh, I am the storm. I am chaos.
Yes. But storm, the chaos is the energy for creation too.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to embrace the chaos and be like, you know what, sometimes that's what it takes. Because I go through phases, for example, if I'm preparing for Eurovision, that I was very disciplined about getting a certain amount of sleep or practicing and being physically healthy. But now I'm working on my album and I'm like, well, if a session has to go till 4 a.m, that's just what we're gonna do. And I'll catch up on my sleep another day. Yeah. And surrendering to that. I think more of the commitment to the craft is more than discipline is what's been working for me. Because sometimes with the lifestyle that we have, it can be difficult. But when it comes to like narcissism, I think there's two things. One, I think that the industry, I do think that women are afraid to take up space because they're afraid of being labeled as narcissists, and there's a lot of stuff ingrained that a lot of people haven't reflected on, but it's very much present because of the patriarchy. I do think, however, that the entertainment industry, the way that it is right now, rewards narcissism in the sense that it rewards people really focusing on just getting attention. Yeah. And sometimes it's not really about the message. It's really just about getting attention.
Sometimes it's also just like quantity of content, which is just like exhausting. But
exactly. And that's like a whole different thing. But as an artist, like I'm very aware too that working with my own image and I'm talking about my feelings, telling my story, that at a certain point, it's like it can get exhausting, but it's almost like, and then you have to connect with being like, okay, I'm also marketing things and I know I have to be present. I know I have to be on camera. I have to be communicating. But also taking that moment to step back and connect with the purpose and the bigger message behind it all. I do think it is a balance. And I think sometimes people just in the go can get lost in it. I think I've gotten lost in it too, that I was like, wait a minute, are you just like putting stuff out just to like feed the algorithm for likes and to make sure you're still grabbing people's attention? Or are you like creating something relevant? I want to create relevant things, know? But the system sometimes rewards just being able to capture people's attention span with whatever it is. Sometimes it's shock value, But let me see. What did you say about inner child, being connected with that, thinking it's narcissism?
Well, just like kind of the courage that it takes for artists to just try, and people can get uncomfortable with that trying. And seeing that as because they might be living in that stuckness.
Yeah, again, like I've been in that stuckness before.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think again, everybody's going to deal with that at some point, you know? And nowadays, I deal with stuckness in a different way that I know I'm not going to be stuck forever. Yeah. So I just try to acknowledge, I mean, also therapy helps with that a lot. Let's say it. That I just try to see what it awakens in me. Like if it ever awakens any kind of jealousy, or even if I feel something negative towards what someone else is doing. I've literally never made a negative comment online. I've been in the entertainment industry for like 15 years and my track record is very clean. Like I keep my bad thoughts to myself or for the group chat, you know, sometimes you need to just like let it out, you know, in a harmless way. But I've thought about, I was like, when I have a strong reaction of either this, and I'm like, but what's causing that? And sometimes you just don't like what you're seeing.
Right.
But I'm like, what is that awakening in me? Why am I feeling that way? And it's always an opportunity to be like, to self-reflect of what's missing in you. Like, what am I doing that I feel like this represents that I'm not doing as well, you know? So it's all an opportunity for reflection, you know, if you really think about it that way. When it becomes destructive, it's really when it's the problem.
And I think that's what art really is. It forces people to reflect and go inwards, and that's why we do latch on to the songs and the stories that we love. But that's also where certain songs and stories make us deeply uncomfortable, and sometimes it really just does like ask the question: Are you, you know, stepping up and looking at yourself in the mirror and admitting like what that artist might be? And I think in some ways the controversy is beautiful, but I think what ultimately I take away is it's so important to kind of have the tools like we discussed here today, or, you know, learn not to be a perfectionist so that you can create your art and have that connection to the source and see what alignment does for you. You brought affirmation cards, which I think is the coolest thing that's happened on this show. Yeah, let's do it. It's so funny because Lada brought this deck in, and I got this for my birthday one year, and I've used this deck, but I haven't used it in a long time because I have so many decks since. So do you want to draw or should I draw?
We should each draw a card.
Okay.
Because then we'll think about what it means to us. Okay. So I want to thank my friend Steffi who gave this to me for my birthday. Aww. It's so cute.
Is it brand new?
Brand new.
Aww.
Yeah, my birthday was July 18th, so really.
Happy belated.
Thank you.
Okay, do you want to go first? Hold on, I think there's like not actual, this is like a instruction card.
Yeah, I guess I'll draw it out. Mix it up a little bit. Look at that. The unicorns.
I love unicorns.
Yeah, why not?
They're real, you know.
They are? Really?
Unicorns?
Yeah?
Of course they're real.
You have to send me some YouTube videos.
I will.
I feel like there's a deep dive there that I'm very open to. All right, let me see. Think of my intention. Okay, I'll take this one. Okay, so now you shuffle, you take one.
Okay.
This is so nice and wholesome.
I know.
Talk about inner child. Look at us with our rainbow.
No, I love this.
Unicorn cards.
Before, like, we would go out in college, we would draw from this deck, and we're like, what is the night bringing?
Really?
It's either chaos or, like, heartbreak. We never knew which one.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay. You read first.
Okay. Abundance.
Love that. We are literally in the era of abundance too. Jupiter's in Leo. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I love Leo season. My Leo queens are the best, honestly.
Thanks. I'm a Leo.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. Okay. So card says, congratulations. It seems you're due for a little. Then it like scratches and says, an infinitely big piece of abundance pie. Feel like you don't deserve it? Knock it off. It's already plated and ready to hit your table. Reluctant to take it? Shut your hole. Abundance pie is big enough to serve everyone. So get your whipped cream ready, unless you're lactose intolerant, and enjoy your well-deserved metaphorical dessert.
I love that. And they even have like non-dairy whipped cream now. So
yeah, they do. They do. I've had it.
Progress.
Yes.
Abundance.
This is a bonus card. This is so cute because we were just talking about taking up space.
Yes.
And feeling deserving of things.
The cards hear us. And I think they heard me too.
Yeah. What's yours?
No judgment.
Beautiful.
I release myself from any and all judgments. I find my inner critic, call it into my office, and tell it to take a vacation. As it leaves the room, I let out a sigh and begin to enjoy the joy of simply being. Who hired that guy anyways?
Love that.
I think that speaks to our conversation.
That
around
speaks to our
perfectionism.
conversation. Yeah.
So funny how that works out.
Right.
Thanks for bringing these.
Of course. I'm glad to contribute. Thank you for having me. You're so eloquent.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really a gift and a skill to be able to speak that clearly and just to choose the best words for a sentence. I know it sounds weird when I say it like that, but truly.
Well, I think being around other writers just helps.
I can tell you're a writer by the way you speak. That's exactly what it is.
I can definitely tell that you're a writer by the way you speak.
Ooh.
But thank you so much for joining. You are a sparkle queen. You look fabulous.
Thank you. I dressed up for my girl.
Yes. Sparkle on.
Sparkle